Rich, stop laughing.
Okay.
Jack, stop smiling.
Don't even make eye contact with
It's
this
time
guy.
to put your boxing gloves on because it's time for a debate.
Let's get ready to rumble.
So in honor of Chris, since he's not here, he has said multiple times he has a specific superhero trope that he hates. He hates it when a superhero hates their powers or rejects it and looks to get rid of them. He hates that trope. And we kind of see it in almost every superhero TV show, movie, comic. There's always a, Spider-Man no more. Everyone has that story.
Dude, honestly, it was the Green Lantern cartoon. If you haven't watched it, Jon Stewart spends 70% of the cartoon trying to get rid of the ring.
So Chris would hate that. But he wants to know, what are the worst superhero movie tropes? What do we think are the worst? Who's got the worst trope?
The worst one's this, and it's a script problem. It's not just superheroes, but it's really frustrating when it's superheroes. It's when they have to, you see it a mile away. They face the big bad, they have to lose, then they spend half the movie getting stronger, and then they go face the big bad again. Or another version of that is when they weaken the hero before the first interaction, and they're just like, you know who did that? It's like the Batman, the last Christopher Nolan Batman movie is a great example of that. They weakened Batman before the Bane fight, so you knew he was going to lose. He lost the fight and then came back ready to fight, although he didn't even have that. Catwoman rides up on a bike, spoiler alert, just hits him with a rocket launcher from the Batmobile bike. But here's another version of that. Batman's climbing out of the cave, and you're like, he's going to fail like 3 times until he takes the rope off, and then he finally makes the climb. Those the hero has to fail over and over or fail before they can succeed is such a superhero movie trope that it's just so frustrating for me.
It's funny.
Like, even if you look at Avengers, right? Endgame and Infinity War is just a longer version of that.
But it was good.
Yeah, they got to. Now that worked. It worked in that one. I give you that. Example. It worked in that one. But it is an example of they did it again. Wonder Woman's. You just go through the list.
I don't mind the trope as long as it's like if it's done well. Like in the Nightfall comics with Batman, when Bane broke his back, he got all the criminals released from Arkham. So over issues, you see Batman just tired and weathered and beaten because he has to apprehend all these villains. Then Bane shows up. So it's like that was like a strategic move to break you down. Where in the Dark Knight movie, he was just older and out of it. It wasn't like
retired,
right?
And like
the comics was dope.
Left. He wasn't like Rocky, where he still had something in the tank he had to get out.
Right. Where in the comics, Bane purposely broke him down psychologically and physically. So for me, if the trope is done right, I can rock with it. But you're right. There's so many examples where it's not, especially in movies. I think I got you beat, though. Let me see.
Let me hear.
This is kind of new, but I hate the idea that superhero movies have to be comedies. Regardless of the subject matter, regardless of the depth, we have to get a joke in. We literally just saw, what I think is a pretty good Thor movie, where one of the main characters is dying of cancer.
Wait, hang on.
And I
think you have to. You have to take Disney Marvel off that shelf. The Batman. How many cheap jokes?
Well, I didn't say it's.
There were still.
I didn't say it's in everything, but right now Disney is paving the way for what they have redefined what superhero movies are, and in that, if you're not Batman, you're kind of weird for taking yourself too seriously.
See, to me, I don't know that that's a trope as much as that's just people don't have faith that good storytelling values can hold an audience.
Well, that's a trope. The idea that a superhero movie has to make you laugh.
Yeah,
and we're going to machine gun jokes.
And even with
that's a trope.
Even when you get like the where they try to just throw a bad joke out there, it's like, do we need that joke? I don't think we need it at all.
But then
It's
I'll
just
say
feels so cheap.
the reverse trope happened as well. When Nolan's movies hit, now everything has to be dark and gritty. Doesn't matter what the superhero movie is. Doesn't matter if this character should be light and have levity. Everything's got to be dark and gritty. So the tropes.
And that was the problem with some of the Superman.
So I would say,
like, Superman doesn't need to be jokes, but it also doesn't need to be Batman.
right. So I say I hate tropes that are trendy, that affects content that it shouldn't affect. When trends, because something was successful, now it all has to follow that formula. Even if Spider-Man, I'm talking about you, Andrew Garfield, The Amazing Spider-Man Part 1, you should not be a dark and gritty drama. The world can be dangerous, but you're still freaking Spider-Man.
Right, and that's not necessarily directed towards Andrew.
No,
that would
that's
be the take on the production.
Yeah, wanted to, the Nolan verse. Now we're in the Disney verse, but that's my trope.
Okay,
Rich.
Which isn't to say you can't have kind of both in one world.
If it works, Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool, like when it works, it works. But when Jane Foster's dying of cancer, we're not going to sit in that for a little bit.
Nah, but that the Thor movie is a bad example to talk about in general. That movie was almost tone deaf to itself.
That's why it's the perfect example for me.
Okay, it was so extreme, yeah. But so was the last Thor. Ragnarok was even worse. I'm sorry, but Ragnarok took all these stakes and just threw them all away. His father's dead. His brother's dead. His world is exploded. His whole civilization is dead. And then there's the Hulk moment where Hulk literally Banner's saying, "If I turn on the Hulk one more time, I think I'm never coming back." And then they sell that short for another.
I love
cheap-ass
during
joke.
debates when I'm so right, Jack starts arguing on my behalf.
Hey, listen,
Well said,
kick the
Jack.
hornet's nest. Watch what
Well
happens.
said, Jack. Rich?
I mean, where do we start? One of the things that I've always had a problem with is just the destructions of like cities. And
Really?
the destructions of cities, you get mass destructions of cities, and for the most part, I mean, except for like recently, but for the most part, no one cares. It's like a whole city block, multiple city blocks will be messed up, destroyed, planets even. Actually, we'll just keep the city blocks. Right? Whole city blocks will get messed up, whether it be in a fight, an army invasion, whatever the case may be. And for the most part, except for maybe like what? Endgame? What was the last with Batman, right? No, the Justice League. When they actually focused on it and they were like, "Oh, well, you're devastated, Metropolis. You're devastated in New York City."
Because
He's like, you get.
Yeah, it's because there was such an outcry by the fans who watched that shitty Man of Steel movie and literally watched Superman and Zod obliterate buildings in a New York City equivalent setting, and we're like, we went through September 11th, man. How? What are you doing? And we're watching the superhero of superheroes not remove the fight from civilian population while buildings are toppling. It's like they had to address it in the next film. It's also why the movie right after that, Marvel made such a big point with the Age of Ultron that we got to save all the civilians if we can. Because Superman was so tone deaf as to what they actually put on the screen.
It was his first fight.
100% agree with you, Rich.
Rich, I 100%
It's so frustrating
disagree
to
with
watch
you
that.
because all your anime does this. Most of the anime you love, My Hero Academia, they do. Like, people
Listen.
just.
He's not saying he's saying he's got a problem when it's not addressed.
Right.
So like you watch Invincible. Invincible is actively trying to stop this thing. It's so addressed that it's a problem. It has to mean something.
And then now
is
if you
what it's
take
saying.
we'll take a Dragon Ball Z for instance. Like Goku will go out of his way to teleport himself to some like abandoned part of the planet or some desolate place on the planet or whatever, so he doesn't affect the city. He doesn't affect the people.
Exactly.
And that's what. And you think about a lot of the anime. That's pretty much what they do. Like you see them, like you'll have the city fights and everything, but then they'll get knocked out to some other part where there's no buildings, no people, and no fighting, and then you have a whole nother fight there.
So let me ask you about
they
this.
blow up some mountain sites instead of building sites.
Is it a trope or more times than not, it's done right, and there's a couple times where it's done horribly wrong? Like, is this a trope?
When that element is done wrong, it's unbearable.
Yeah.
Right, but it's done right more than it's done wrong, right?
I don't know
Like Man
about
of,
that.
Man
I
of
feel
Steel
like
is the
it's
worst
been,
offender. Outside of that,
but up until that movie, and even in the Batman v Superman, like the level of just decimation that Batman brings to literally to the city while he's fighting criminals with his car is ridiculous. It's absurd.
yeah, but that's because it's Batman. We wouldn't feel that way if it was the Punisher. Like, he wasn't destroying city blocks.
But the Punisher is an anti-hero. Batman's a hero.
The trope is you hate when cities are destroyed and no one cares, or you hate when specific heroes destroy it. Like, we're getting two different
All right. Boom.
things.
So
now.
yes, I hate when superheroes, people who are supposed to be out there saving people, heroes that are supposed to be out there saving people, are out there just destroying city blocks or
You
allowing
hate the
city
Power-
blocks to
So
be
you hate the
destroyed.
Power Rangers because they never took that fight out of Angel.
Oh,
out
they
of Angel
never
Grove.
did. Oh no, they never did. And
Jack, you talking about
what? I think they
building
addressed that.
shopping?
They addressed that because didn't they have designated evacuation points and like shelters? Because wasn't the community center one of them?
Yeah, that little martial art little juice shop.
Listen,
no,
bro,
Rich,
it was one of them.
That show did not address the fact that buildings toppled. They won that fight after buildings toppled. Then they're back in that juice bar giving high fives.
And no, even with Power Rangers, there'll be times where they expand and be like, oh wait, now they're all of a sudden in like some beach desert or whatever.
Yeah. And I felt like every fight should have been brought to the desert. Like you're destroying this city and no one cares.
They had designated bunkers and evacuation sites. All right. They addressed it. Okay. You may not know it, but that teen center, that diner, whatever it was reinforced. Okay.
Was it?
It was reinforced.
Yeah.
Was it?
Listen.
Like, it's not a problem if we see it happen on The Boys, because we know they're bad superheroes. But Power Rangers?
Yo,
Come
like
on.
it was nothing.
Like it's nothing.
Well, we don't need to labor this. I don't know if any of us are right or wrong. I would say these are all pretty bad
Yeah,
tropes.
this ain't a debate. It's just like a shit kicking
Just see who can
contest. Kicking the content.
kick it the hardest, man. But these are all true, and I feel like everything works until you're not thinking about how the world responds to it. Cities can be destroyed as long as there's a real reaction to it, and you can have humor in your content as long as it doesn't overshadow the drama. And you can freaking have your hero have to overcome odds as long as we don't see the whole freaking formula. Of course, he has to go through this and has to go through that. I mean,
You know what the best content? It ticks all the boxes. I go back to Invincible. Invincible is probably some of the absolute best superhero content out there. It's dropped in. It's got humor and levity. There's real world consequences to the destruction. And the hero is constantly in a place where he's failing and learning to succeed.
it does it all right. Like the tropes, it's not a trope because they earned the things that they earned all those moments. Yeah. Watch Invincible, everybody. It's really, really good.
Oh yeah, very good.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. We're talking